Hey everyone, sorry, I'm just trying to fix this a little bit. There we go, that's better. Okay. I hope everyone is doing okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's the afternoon for me, but I know it might be a different time for all of you. My name is Lizzie, and I'm going to be teaching this live lesson today. You can see what it's about here, but before we get into it, let's just do some little introductions just to give some people more time to join this live. If you haven't already, I can see some of you are already doing this. Please, can you comment, let me know where you're from, where you're joining us from, which country you're in right now, which is actually a very interesting thing today. I mean, it's always interesting. I'm always interested to know where you're from, because it's so nice to see people from so many different places. But today it's even more interesting. Maybe you can guess why. It's kind of related to our topic, because we will discuss some sort of different cultures and things today. So that means as well that I'm hoping this live will be, it might be a slightly different style to my usual lives where I'm just kind of teaching you vocabulary. It's going to be a bit more interactive. I want to get a lot of input from all of you today. And you can share your experiences with me. I'm hoping it's going to be that kind of lesson where you get to really take part as well. So it's great to see there's people from so many different places, because then hopefully we can have a lot of different views and opinions, and that's wonderful. So let me just see where people are from. I am from Scotland in the UK, but I am living in England. I'm living in London now. So I guess that's two different cultures, kind of quite similar. British culture, but there are some differences which we can go into a little bit later. So we've got quite a lot of people from Italy today. Ciao, hello. We've got people from Brazil, and it's morning in Brazil. Nice. It's nice and early for you, is it? Is it around 10 a.m? Maybe not too early. We've got people from Turkey, quite a few from Turkey. Hello, everyone from Turkey. Someone in South Africa. Hello. Romania. Hello, hello. Hi, Maya, 5 years old. Thanks for joining. Okay, we've got people from South Korea. Hi, Stacey. Poland, Myanmar. More people from Turkey. Okay, Japan, Afghanistan, Mexico. Okay, I'm hoping I've managed to get every country there. I'm sure there's more, so I'm sorry if I've missed you. So today, as I'm going to introduce myself again because someone's asked, my name is Lizzie, and I am a tutor here on Cambly, and I am going to be teaching this live lesson today. We have these live lessons every week, twice a week. No, not twice a week, once a week, but sometimes on Saturdays and sometimes on Sundays. So I'm going to be teaching this lesson today, and I hope it's interesting for you. As I said, it's a little bit of a different style to my usual lessons. I'm hoping it's going to be a bit more interactive, and we can sort of have a bit of a discussion about your experiences and my experiences. And yeah, I hope it's interesting. So before we begin, I have a question for you right at the start. So please, if you could just write in the, sorry, there's a really annoying fly. If you could just write in the chat your answer to my question. Also, if you have any other questions throughout the live, I will sort of try and take a little break at some point and answer some questions, or maybe I'll ask them at the end. Answer them at the end. So I'm sorry if I don't manage to answer all of your questions today, but I will try and answer as many as possible. So my first question to you, which I will also write in the chat as well, is, well, it's kind of a few questions. So, have you ever traveled to another country, or lived in another country? And if not, where would you like to? Would you like to? And where would you like to live or visit? Which country? Okay. So let me know. Have you ever traveled to another country that's not your own, or lived in another country that's not the country you're originally from? And also, if not, is there anywhere you would like to go, or where would you like to go next? So let's just have a little chat about that. So we've got, Cyprus. People have visited Indonesia, Cuba. Flavio, I've been living in Bath, UK for 1 year. I like Bath. It's a really nice city. I've been there only once, actually. Only visited once, and it was this year, and it's a very nice city. So anyone who comes to visit the UK, I'd recommend that you visit Bath. It's a small city, but it's very like pretty. All the buildings are really nice. It's a nice place to visit. Melbourne. Okay, you are all very well traveled. Luan, I haven't, but I would like to visit Switzerland. Yeah, me too. Okay, lots of you have been to lots of different places, which is great to hear, because that's really going to help us have a good discussion today together to talk about our different experiences in all these different countries. And if you haven't traveled anywhere else, that's okay, because you live in your country, and I'm still interested to know about the culture in your country, and you'll still be able to interact with this lesson. So it doesn't really matter either way. Quickly, I'll just say for me, so I mentioned at the beginning that I am Scottish. Sorry, I'm just moving this. I feel like that's better. So I am Scottish, and I now live in London, in England. But I have also lived in France. This was a while ago now, but I lived in France for 6 months, and I lived in Belgium for 6 months. I also lived in Vietnam for just over 1 year, and I lived in Spain for almost 6 months, around 6 months, maybe slightly less actually. So that's part, you can see why then it's something that I'm very interested in. This is an interesting topic for me, because I have definitely experienced this thing many times. So I have a lot to say, but I also really want to hear about your experiences too. Okay, so we are going to firstly go over the meaning of this, okay? Culture shock. So firstly, if we break this up into the two words that it is, we have shock, okay? So the word shock in English, we can use it as a noun, we can use it as a verb, we can use it as an adjective. Can we? Yeah, I feel shocked. we can use it in many different forms, okay? So as a noun, a shock is a sudden, surprising experience or event. Something that surprises you and it's quite sudden, okay? And then as a verb, to shock someone would be to cause someone to feel surprised or upset. Okay, so maybe it could be if they receive some bad news, or it could be if you give them a fright. So yeah. And culture is ideas, customs, and behavior of a group of people or a country. So I think you can kind of guess the meaning of culture shock. But it's defined as a feeling that you get when you move to another country or you travel to another country. Maybe you feel a bit disturbed. Maybe something just doesn't feel very familiar to you, so it feels unfamiliar. Um, and you might feel disorientated. You've gone from being in somewhere, a place that feels really familiar to you, like your own country, to somewhere new where everything feels different. And there are different reasons why this might happen. So you might move it might be when you go on holiday. It might be you might move to another country. You might have to move for a job, for example. Maybe you study abroad, so you're at university and you decide to go for 1 year to study in another country. And it might just be that you go traveling for a long period of time, just for fun. So these are different times this might happen to you. And the reason you might feel shocked is because there are new attitudes. So people have different attitudes that you're not really used to. Maybe there's new rules. So the way that people are sort of told to live their lives in this country, the rules of that country are very different to your own country. And it might be just a new lifestyle. Just the way of life is just very different. And also it could just be that the environment is very different. And there's many different reasons for this. So I'm going to give you some more sort of specific examples of culture shock. But before I do, if you guys can think of any specific things that might shock you when you move to a country, please let me know in the chat, okay? So have a little think. It's not necessarily something you've experienced. We will talk more about your experiences later on in the live, but just generally. So generally, what are some things that might shock you or surprise you or be different for you when you go to another country? What differences do different cultures have? So let me see. Food, clothing, yeah, definitely. My mum was shocked when I came back from the hairdresser. It's not culture shock, but okay. Rules, yeah, exactly, rules. Flavio, driving on the left side of the road. That's a really good one. I didn't even think of that one. So thank you so much for sharing that. So in the UK, am I going to get this right? In the UK and in the US or Australia, we drive on the left side of the road. In a lot of European countries, they drive on the right side of the road. I don't know about every country, so you can let me know. I don't drive, but I find that quite something to get used to, even just as someone who's walking, because I will go to cross the road if I've been in like France or Spain or somewhere where they drive on the right side of the road, and I'm used to people driving on the left side, and I go to cross the road, and then I look the wrong way for the traffic, which is actually really dangerous. So yeah, it's definitely good to be aware of these things because you need to stay safe. So yeah, what else? Food and dress, language. Yeah, language is a huge culture shock for people, especially if you don't speak that language at all. That can be really stressful and quite isolating. Weather, great. Air, water quality. Religion, yeah, could be. Habits, yeah. Great. Traditions, music, yeah. A lot of these are things that I didn't actually think of myself, so it's great. There's so many things, okay? And I'm sure a lot of you have experienced these things yourself. I'm going to just go over some examples in more detail that I have here. Some of them you've mentioned a little bit. So things like the weather. So maybe going from a really hot country to a really cold country or the other way around. Maybe you came from Australia where it was all nice and sunny, and then you arrive in the UK and it's raining all the time. You don't have the right clothing with you. So that can be a culture shock. But also regarding the weather, seasons. So, in the UK, we have 4 seasons, very clear 4 seasons at the moment. I don't know if climate change is kind of changing that, but in other countries they kind of really have 2 seasons, just like winter and summer. So that's definitely a big difference. And also, the daylight hours. What I mean by that is like how long the sun is up for. So the timings of the sun rising, which is the sun coming up, and the sun setting, which is the sun going down. This varies depending where you are in the world. So definitely in like European countries, well, I think all European countries. This is now testing my geography. I'll speak about the UK to make sure I'm being correct. In the UK, in the winter, we have really, really short days. So the sun rises at like 8-ish, maybe 8:30 a.m. And then it sets at like 4 p.m. So the amount of sunlight we have is very, very small. But then in the summer in the UK, it's really long. So we have like the sun rises at like 5 a.m., 5 in the morning, and it sets at 9 p.m. So we have these really long days, which is lovely. I love it. But then I hate it in winter because it's so dark all the time. And when I lived in Vietnam, I really liked it because the sun rose. The sun rose, the past of rises rose. The sun rose and set at the same sort of time throughout the whole year. So it wasn't as long as the summer that we have, but it was really nice. It was really nice to just not have those really dark winters with hardly any sunlight. And I felt like it was better for my health to kind of just have it the same the whole year round. So yeah, that's another thing with weather. Sorry, you guys are saying so many good things in the chat, and I will have a little look. I'll have a little break at some point and check. Other things that could be a culture shock could be people's attitudes. So, for example, maybe people are less friendly, or they keep themselves to themselves more. So, keep themselves to themselves, which means they don't really talk to people as much. They're a bit more private. So in some countries they might be like that. In some countries people might be really friendly, so they just say hello to everyone, even if it's a stranger. And if you've come from a country where it's not like that, you might find that quite strange or invasive. You might feel like, why are they talking to me? I don't want to talk to them. And it's not necessarily people being rude. I think sometimes people think, oh, that they were quite rude in this place, but sometimes it's just that the culture is a little bit different. So it's good to kind of have awareness and understanding of that. Also, yeah, you guys have said rules, so rules, customs, also language, definitely, but not even just different language. Sometimes it might just be a different variation of your language. So, in the United States of America, they speak English. I speak English, but I'm from the UK, and English in the UK is a little bit different, very different actually, in some ways, to the English they speak in the United States. Of course, we speak the same language. We can still understand each other, but we have different names for certain things. We have different nouns. We also have different slang expressions, different idioms. So that might be a bit of a culture shock. I might not always understand everything that they're saying. Especially if they're having sort of friendly chat or chat amongst friends. It might be difficult to follow the conversation, but it's okay. But it's just a difference. Another thing could be not understanding how to do things. Like maybe you want to take a bus, but you don't know, do you pay for the bus on the bus? Do you have to buy a ticket before? Can you pay by your card? Do you have to use cash? Like just little things like this that can sometimes be quite stressful because it's different, and maybe you do something wrong and people get annoyed at you or angry with you and you don't really understand what you did wrong. So little things like this. Food can definitely be a culture shock. It could be good or bad. So yeah, food when you go out to restaurants, but also food in supermarkets. You might not be able to buy your favorite types of food that you could buy in your home country, and that might be quite hard sometimes. Also currency, getting used to different money, and also things might be more expensive or cheaper, and that could be a shock. Also busyness, you might go from living in a tiny little village to living in a really big city. That could be a massive change for you, or the other way around. Another thing, not understanding work culture. So for example, in some countries, people only work for 4 days a week. They have a 4-day working week. In other countries, most countries, people work 5 days a week. Some countries, some cultures, people are expected to work really hard and stay at the office really late at night. And in other cultures, no, you can't do that. You shouldn't do that. And then the last thing I've got here is social norms. I've got this here. I've got some vocabulary here, so I'm going to share this from time to time. Social norms. Social norms. When we talk about norms, it's related to what's normal. Okay, social norms, what's normal. So the normal way people behave, normal social behavior, normal behavior between people. Okay, so I'm going to go on with some specific examples, but I'm just going to check some of your comments, just a few of them. Let me see. There are 6 seasons in my country, but there are 2 seasons in your country. That is different. Maybe you were talking to someone else. Yeah. Wow, that's really different. 6 seasons. What else have we got? Punctuality. I'm about to talk about that actually, so that's great. We'll talk about that now. So someone said, when I went to Germany, I liked the punctuality there. In Brazil, it is a little bit different. Thank you very much for your comment. I will talk about that just now. So I've actually got that here. Punctuality. So punctuality means being on time for things, arriving at things, planned things, at the correct time. And if you say someone is punctual, it means that they always arrive on time. And if you're not punctual, you do not arrive on time. And this can definitely be a cultural thing. And I like the example of Germany. That's one that people often give. Just to quickly mention, some of the things might seem like stereotypes. I totally understand that, and not everyone's the same in every culture. We might be generalizing a little bit. And yeah, just I am taking into account that just because we think one culture is like this doesn't mean everyone's like that. But it's still interesting to sort of look at comparisons and experiences we've had. So yeah, when I went to, so in the UK, sorry, so Germany is a good example. Yeah, very punctual. And also in the UK, I would say British people are quite punctual. Like if I say to my friends, come to my house at this time, they will arrive at that time. Not all of them, but usually they will. And if I want it to be more, you can arrive after that time, then usually I will give them a time frame. So I'll say between this time and this time, and then that's fine. But usually if you say to someone the time you're meeting in the UK, that's the time you're meeting. I felt like in Vietnam, I had different experiences of that. People were not always on time. And also in Spain, I found that people were not always on time. I've heard that in Italy, it can be like that as well. So yeah, I don't know what it's like in your country that you're from, but please let me know in the chat. And another thing I've got here is greetings. Someone said greetings. So greetings. Greetings is how you greet someone, so how you say hello to them. So in different cultures, this is different. So in the UK, I think people think in the UK we shake hands with people. It's not necessarily true. In a work or business setting or quite a formal setting, then yeah, we would shake hands with someone. Men also often shake hands. Um, Personally, usually I hug people. A lot of people do that. I hug people even if I met them for the first time. I wouldn't do that in a work setting, but I would do that with friends, or even if it was someone new who I was being introduced to, not in a work setting. Um, yeah, sometimes people just wave as well. So there's different ways. But what we definitely don't really do in the UK, some people do, but what we don't do as like a sort of overall like cultural thing that we do is we don't do kissing. We don't kiss people when we meet them for the first time or when we're saying hello. Whereas I know in France and in Spain and Italy, I think. People kiss when they're saying hello. And for me, that was something I had to get used to when I was living in France and Spain. I quite like it though, because I like hugging people and sort of similar, isn't it? It's still quite close. Um, so yeah, how do you greet people? How do you say hello to people in your country? Let me know. Um, a lot of you are talking about punctuality. That's very interesting. Okay, we don't hug, but we do namaste. Like namaste? Is that what that is? Or is that a different thing? Namaste. Yeah. Okay. Okay, just wave. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Interesting. I don't know if I'm going to say this right. You say marhaba. Am I saying that correct? Um, um, or you might say vanakam. Okay, kiss people. In Italy, you kiss, yeah. Or you say ciao, yeah. Okay, thank you. Another thing I spoke about work culture. And I know in Japan, I've had quite a few Japanese students. I've never been to Japan. I've had quite a few Japanese students in the past who told me that in Japan, they there's quite a work culture of staying in the office quite late and working long hours, working really hard. In the UK, that's true with certain jobs. If you work in finance, for example, or um, something like this, you might be sort of expected to stay in the office late. But I think this is changing a little bit. Yeah. What about you guys? What about in your country? Do you sort of have a 4-day working week? Do you work 5 days a week? Do people work really hard and stay in the office really late, or are people a bit more relaxed, a bit more relaxing way of life? Working 6 out of 7 days in Italy. What? That's horrible. No balanced life. Yeah, not at all. Oh, wow. Okay. I'm going to move on. Oh, no, one more thing. Sorry. One more thing. I just want to go over some of this vocabulary. So I've also got on here taboos. Taboos are things that you shouldn't do. Sort of like unwritten rules. So if you do these things, it's bad. But it's kind of like, it's not necessarily illegal. It's just people don't like it if you do it. Okay, so it's quite difficult because you maybe wouldn't see this written down anywhere. It's not like in a rule book or it's not a law that you know about. And then you might just do it and people don't like it. So it's a taboo. For example, tipping. The example I've got is tipping. Tipping is when you go for a meal in a restaurant and then you pay for the meal, you pay the price of the meal, but then you also give a little bit of extra money to say thank you, often to the waiter or waitress or whoever served you. So in different countries and different cultures, this varies. So please let me know what you do in your country. So let me know your country and whether or not you tip. I know in some countries it's actually rude to tip. So if you give extra money, it's actually considered quite rude. So you shouldn't do it. Whereas in other countries, like in the United States, people tip a lot. Like they give a high tip and it's expected. You kind of have to. It's a big part of their culture. I'd say in the UK, we're kind of in the middle. So you don't have to. But people kind of do sometimes. It's usually around like 10 to 12% of the price of the meal. In some restaurants, they include the tip price, the service charge, which means you don't really have to tip. You could still if you want to. So it's a little bit confusing in the UK. It's like, oh, you could, you might not have to. My advice would be if you can afford to, if you have enough money to give a tip, and the person who served you was really helpful and really nice, then you could give a little tip. But if someone serves you and it's bad service and they're rude, I personally wouldn't leave a tip. But that's different in different countries. What have we got? In Italy, to leave a tip is not an obligation. Okay, it's kind of similar in the UK. Yeah, interesting. So much good discussion, guys. Thank you. I hope you're all learning so much about so many different countries. And the other bit of vocabulary I had here was this word, blunt. Blunt. To be blunt. And this was, I was thinking about the way people act with strangers, with people they don't know. So I did mention briefly that in some countries, people are very, very friendly with strangers. So they'll say hello to everyone and chat to everyone. But in other countries, it's not like this. People are more private and they don't really interact with strangers as much. And if you're from a country where people are really friendly and you go to a country where people are not less friendly, but they're just less friendly with strangers, they just don't interact with strangers, you might think that people are being blunt, okay? So if someone is blunt, it means that they are just not saying much to you. Sometimes it means rude. But yeah, I don't think it is rude when this happens. It's just people are different, and people are different with their personalities, but also different depending on the culture, the country, and the culture as well. So yeah, in your country, does everyone chat to everyone, strangers, or not? Turkish people are very friendly and generous. Yeah, I've heard that. That's really nice. Indians are very friendly. I find English people very friendly and talkative to strangers. It's interesting you say that, Flavio, because I would say and this might be the same for you guys in your countries that you live in, but I would say in the UK it depends on which part you're from. I would say some places people are more friendly than others. And yeah, you can't really generalize, but I would say personally for me, coming from like where I was from in Scotland, which is a smaller city, and then moving to London, which is a really big city, I'd say people are more friendly in the smaller city in Scotland. And I don't know if it's necessarily like a Scotland-England cultural difference. I think it's more that when you're in a bigger city, people are maybe less talkative with people they don't know. They talk less to strangers. Yeah, so that's an interesting one. But it depends on the experience you have. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to quickly talk about my specific examples of culture shock, and then I want to know yours. So the first question I have for you here is, have you ever experienced culture shock? So it could be when you went on holiday. It could be when you, if you lived in another country, moved to another country, studied in another country, went traveling. So have you experienced culture shock? And if you have, please tell me more details, okay? So we can have a discussion about it. Tell me which country it was, which country you're from, and what it was that shocked you or that was a change for you. And while you guys write away and have a little think, I'll just tell you some of my experiences of culture shock. So one of them was France. So a few with France. So when I lived in France, one of the things I found different was the opening times of things, shops, everything on Sundays. So on Sundays, everything was closed. I couldn't go to the shop and get anything. Whereas in Scotland, everything is open on a Sunday. Some things close slightly earlier, but it's open most of the day. And I found that quite strange at the beginning. Another thing I found difficult in France was the amount of paperwork. So the amount of forms and things that you had to complete for everything. Like if you wanted to rent a flat or do anything, there was a lot more paperwork to do than I was used to in Scotland. And then when I was in Vietnam, I struggled with food. There was a lot of I loved the food in Vietnam. Like Vietnamese food is so nice, and I loved it. I loved being able to have it so much. But I think you always still do miss the food from your own culture, especially if you can't have it. And there were certain things that I missed, and some things I could get in the supermarket and things, but there were some things that I struggled to get, like baked beans, which is like a typical British food. I really miss baked beans, and I don't even eat them that often anyway, but for some reason, as soon as I was away from the UK for so long and I couldn't have them, it's all I wanted to have. And in Spain, I would say culture shock that I experienced was meal times, which we haven't spoken about. So in the UK, typically people have their dinner, the last meal of the day, from like 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., 8 p.m. maybe, but that's like considered quite a late dinner. I mean, maybe on the weekend you would have it at that time, but traditionally people would have their dinner from like 5 p.m. till 7 p.m. But in Spain, I was going out for dinner at like 9 p.m., 10 p.m. And I find that quite weird as well. Just something new to get used to. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to overcome culture shock, how to what to do when you experience this. But before, I'm going to just look and see what you guys have experienced. So thank you very much for sharing. So we've got siesta in Spain. Yeah, siesta in Spain. So when people have a sleep or a nap is a short sleep, usually in the daytime. So people have a nap in the afternoon in Spain, siesta. I quite liked that. I had more energy when I went out for dinner really late. So what else? Religious holidays and public holidays. Yeah, so just different holidays. That's definitely one. I was shocked when the driver of a bus in France stopped to have a rest while you were on the bus. That wouldn't happen in the UK. They would just change drivers. That's funny. Everybody gets divorced in Vancouver. That's an interesting one. Restaurants stop serving food at 9:30 p.m. in the UK. Yeah, Flavio. Not all restaurants. If you're in London, some places might be open later, especially at the weekend. But yeah, a lot of the time, the last orders in restaurants is 9:30 p.m. So it's a big difference. Have you come to? Sorry, I'll go over some more of your questions later. Shop closes at 9 p.m. Yes, definitely. In many countries, shop closes at 6 p.m. That's true. That's true. We celebrate lots of activities in the whole day. Friday is a holiday. So yeah, having different days is a holiday. Yeah, that's different. Okay, thank you guys. There's so many. Tea drinking in Turkey after dinner. That's true. Yeah, that's quite a nice. It's quite a nice part of the culture. I quite like that. Love tea. Hazmet, a nap is a short sleep. A short sleep. Okay, so I'm gonna go on to how to overcome culture shock, and then I have a couple more questions for you. So, firstly, my advice to you is to understand that it's normal. It's totally normal. As we can see from this discussion we've had today, a lot of us have experienced culture shock. So it's totally normal to experience this. And sometimes it doesn't affect you, culture shock. Sometimes it's just quite funny or interesting. But sometimes it can make you feel quite homesick, so you miss home. It can make you feel a bit strange. It can make you feel a bit confused or silly. So yeah, sometimes it can feel difficult. So if you do feel like this, I think it's good to understand that it's normal, talk about it, maybe even laugh about it in a kind way while being respectful to the culture. And also appreciate differences. So it's really good to experience different cultures because it makes us more open-minded, it makes us more aware. So yeah, see it as a good thing. Like, we're lucky that we have had this experience to experience different culture and notice these things. And with that, we will hopefully be more open-minded human beings. Accept that it takes time to adapt. So to any change, it takes time to get used to it. So if you're living in another country as well, if you've moved to another country and you feel a bit strange, it might just take a bit of time for you to feel sort of normal when everything around you is different, and that's okay. It's good to ask people who live there. It's good to ask people about their culture, get their opinions, get their views, get their insight, so you can really understand why they do certain things, and sort of share your culture with them as well. And the last thing is, I would say, don't compare too much with home. So don't think, oh, why is it like this here? I wish I was home. I wish it was like how it is at home. Instead of comparing, instead see these differences as an opportunity to learn about a new culture and grow as a person. So yeah, what I'm going to ask you now is, what advice would you give to someone visiting or moving to your country? So number 3, what advice would you give to someone moving to or visiting your country? I'm going to write this here. What advice? So something that they should do or shouldn't do to prepare, something they should know about your country so that maybe they don't make any mistakes or break any rules or taboos, unwritten rules. It's a really long question, and it's taking me just to write it. To someone visiting or moving to your country. Don't use a taxi, not to be cheated. That's really good advice. It's really specific and really practical advice. Don't use a taxi. What should they do then? Should they use Uber? Should they use public transport? Reading the customs. Yeah, so go on the internet, find out on Google, search the country you're going to. You can type that word, which I taught you, taboos. Okay, so what are the taboos in this country that I'm going to? And you'll find all the sort of unwritten rules. So what else? Don't order cappuccino after noon. Are you from Italy? Where are you from? What country is this? Don't order a cappuccino after noon. Okay, why not? Also, why? I have so many questions. What else have we got? I love these guys. Avoid the restaurants which serve a tourist menu. Go to little independent restaurants called trattoria. That's Spanish, isn't it? I should know how to say that. Yes, that's really good advice. I love that. Pay attention to their purse, okay? Watch your money. Maybe in this country there's a lot of thieves. Please remind us which country you guys are from as well. Italy, okay. Italy with the not ordering the cappuccino. Great. What else? Search their culture. A lot of people are saying that. I think that's great advice. What else have we got? Care about your stomach. It's Turkish cuisine is meat. Okay. Don't look for spaghetti alla bolognese. Okay. That's good. I'm assuming that's in Italy as well. Japan is safe, but prices are high now. So that's good advice. Make sure you've got enough money to spend if you go to Japan. Okay. In Italy, we drink cappuccino only at breakfast. Good to know. I didn't know that. Okay. Do you guys have any questions? I'll give you a couple of minutes if you have any questions for me about anything, any of the vocabulary that we have gone over. Not gone over that much vocabulary today. Oh my goodness. But if you've got any questions about any of this vocabulary that we touched on, or any other questions about culture shock, then please let me know. I'm moving this towards me so I can see you guys a bit better. I can see what you're saying. I can see again the lesson. I can see the lesson again. Yes, of course. So sorry, I forgot to mention this lesson will go onto our YouTube channel where you can watch it again and again and again, as many times as you like. So yes, you can watch it again, not even just once, 2, 3, 100 times. And please remember to share this with anyone else who you think might benefit from it or find it interesting. Can you explain blunt again? Thank you. Of course I can. So blunt here, blunt, it means, it can mean to be a bit rude, or just to be quite quiet and not very talkative. Okay, so if you don't talk to someone very much, you kind of ignore them or you don't say much, then you're blunt. What else? Any other questions? Someone asked if I'd been to Cambodia, which I have been to Cambodia, actually. And I had a great time. I went to... What's it called? I went to Koh Rong Salam, but I was really sick when I was there. I don't think it was food poisoning, but I was probably the most sick I've ever been in my life. I'm still traumatized by it, but it was like a shame because it's probably, I would say, one of the most beautiful places I've ever been, Koh Rong Salam in Cambodia. It was amazing. I saw a whale shark in the sea next to me when I was swimming. It was like the best travel experience ever. But I was also really sick, so it was like the best and the worst at the same time. But yeah, I loved Cambodia. What else? Is your accent American? No, it's Scottish, but it's quite a neutral Scottish accent. People sometimes think I sound American or Irish or English. I am Scottish, and it is a Scottish accent. It's just not a very strong one. And American pronunciation has some similarities with Scottish pronunciation. Some of the ways we pronounce certain sounds and words are quite similar, which is why it can sometimes sound like that, which is interesting. Can you speak Gaelic? No, I can't speak Gaelic. I'm a terrible Scottish person. Can't speak Gaelic. Okay, guys. Oh, would you repeat taboo here? Taboo. Taboo is like an unwritten rule. So it's like a rule, but it's not like a law or like a strict rule. It's like, you shouldn't really do this because people won't like it. But you're not doing anything like wrong, but it might upset some people. Okay. So for example, things like tipping, should you tip or not tip? Or things like queuing. So in some countries like the UK, we love to queue for everything. And if you just walk in front of people, that's a taboo, okay? It's not like a law. You're not going to get arrested. But people won't like that very much. Okay. Thank you so much for everyone's input, for everyone's comments today. It's actually been really interesting. I've got to learn so much about your cultures. So thank you so much for sharing that with me. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Before I go, I just want to quickly mention, if you guys are here, then you obviously know about Cambly. You know, watch our live lessons, and thank you for doing that. If you didn't know already, Cambly is also a platform where you can learn English with one-to-one tutors, and in a group, actually. And they do like kids lessons. We've got kids lessons. So yeah, if you are a child, if any children are here as well, then that might be of interest to you. But it's a great way to learn English, improve your confidence, improve your speaking skills, definitely. But also, it's a great way to learn about different cultures. And I think if you're learning English, when you're or any language really, but Cambly is an English learning platform. But when you're learning English, it's not only about the language. Of course, like the language, learning the vocabulary, the grammar, is the way that you're going to be able to communicate. But especially as you get a bit more confident in the language, if you want to really be able to understand the language, you need to also understand culture. It's a big part of it. So that's why learning English with a native speaker can be really beneficial, because it gives you an opportunity to really learn about their culture and whatever part of the English-speaking world they're from. So I really would recommend trying out if you haven't already. There should be a link below this video when it's posted, so you can download Cambly, and let me know how you get on and if you enjoy it. Thanks again for joining. We will see you again next week. We'll have a different topic. It'll be on Saturday. It'll be with a different tutor, and I will see you guys again really soon as well. Have a lovely rest of your day. Goodbye, everyone.